Hello, Dave and Tim here with the single malt review. Today we're back in Speyside for another dram of excellent single malt Scotch. This one is a little different.
The curiously named Old Ballantruan, or the Old Ballantruan, if you're a Highlands local, I suspect, and confusingly labelled as the peated malt Old Ballantruan Speyside Glenlivet.
Yes. We have a peated Speyside whiskey, a bit of a rarity in itself.
And the only distillery name it puts on is not where it's made, because there's nothing to do with Glenlivet. This is 5 minutes down the road. This is distilled at Tomintoul, which we've tried, maybe not extensively, but we've
tried a couple of Tomintouls in the past. Unlike those two, this one has no age statement. It is bottled at a robust 50% ABV with no chill filtration. All things we like to see.
Partially destroyed the lid, taken off. Never mind.
Oh, we'll see if we can fully destroy the whiskey, so there's nothing left.
So, that's... Well, I was about to say that's a very honestly light colour, but actually I think that's got a hint of coloration there, unless it is...
Oh, I'll leave some of that spirit there.
Older than we think.
Oh, dearie me.
So, this is Tomintoul given the peated treatment. So certainly the first peated Tomintoul that we have encountered. We have enjoyed many Tomintouls across the channel, some more than others.
2 we've reviewed.
Oh, there you go, it's more than one. Close enough. But
as we've until tried off camera.
Ooh, hang on. I think I'm smelling the no age statement here. There is certainly peat, so yes, they've got that one right. There is a real kick of young spirit in here, though.
But there's also a real kick, more than I expected, of stewed, fruity Speyside goodness.
Yeah, there is.
That is more rich. I was expecting much more peat. Then again, we're trying this hot off the heels of the Paul John peated select cask.
A bit of a peated kick at the moment.
Indian peated dram.
Oh, I know. This smells pretty young, mate.
There's some nice greasy, oily peat smoke in there too. It's good.
It's very savoury and it's really dry. This is tender, dry nose.
I'm getting quite a lot of the stewed fruit though. I'm getting those heavy sweeter notes. It's a heavy syrupy kind, not like the light sugary.
We've got a nasal divergence going on. It can happen. Yeah, to me it's very, very sort of back of the nose. Very, very savoury. Absolute tender, dry.
Some nice oily hemp peat smoke.
Yeah, certainly oil. Certainly hemp. There's a bit of matchstick in there as well.
All right.
Right up the top. That is well dry for a nose.
That is impressively varied, and as you can see, it's producing a variance of opinion too.
Even the fruit flies have fled from this one, for the time being at least.
Well, I want to get right in and try that at its full 50% strength. Ooh, wow, that's...
That comes out swinging.
That is very prickly. That's a real little peaty hedgehog doing a number on my tongue. That is spiky. It's rocky. It's got gravel and grit.
Yeah, I think they say heavily peated, and that is correct. It is heavily peated.
Yes.
That's still going on, to be honest.
The tasty notes on the label speak of gentle peat reek flavours with hints of citrus and malty nuttiness. But yes, this is...
I would call the peat anything but gentle.
Yeah.
That's a fiery peat. There is citrus. It's the sort of citrus dancing in the flame of the peat, such as one might get from a Colila.
Colila's a good comparison.
Similar to that.
Greasy jute I was smelling too. That's there in abundance. That's a very Colila property.
It's very, for a Speyside whiskey, given the peated treatment. We've seen a few. I think Ben Rieg is probably the pioneer in that category. They do some very, very good ones. They're Curious Artists range, which they do young and old versions of that, and they are more or less tremendous in whatever form they take. This one leans into the peat, I think, even more. This is really... if you had given it to me blind and suggested it was in fact a full-blown Islay whiskey, I would have probably been fairly well convinced. I would have had a lot of trouble telling you where it came from. I mean, I would have been wrong either way. But the peat element is definitely Islay leaning as opposed to mainland. So it doesn't have an Ardmore style of peatiness. It's got a really tangy island style peatiness.
It doesn't have the sheer outrageous amounts of brine and iodine I come to expect from Islay peat, though. It's a little more inland in that sense. It is so that despite the smoky greasiness, it is blending well with the other flavours. It's not overwhelming it. It's not predominating. It's actually just contributing to it and not trying to control it.
Yeah, for me, it is first and foremost a peated whiskey.
For sure.
Very peated. This is up there with Colilla, if not Freud, not all the way out onto the not full peatard like an Ardbeg, but it is almost all the way out on that jetty.
Not based on its own peatard.
Yeah,
rather.
And what this isn't is in any way identifiable as a Tomintoul.
Yes, that's why I've gone to such lengths to not make the association in their labelling.
Yeah, maybe that's the case, because Tomintoul, that's a fairly gentle, laid back in many cases, gentle, thoughtful, balanced, and quite complex Speyside dram. This is so very peated and so very different. It's almost its own thing entirely.
Because we've tried in the past a few times where a traditionally unpeated distiller makes a one-off peated variant or a peated offering. We've tried a few like that, and in those cases it's often they're a little bit jarring. You can taste the underlying unpeated character which has been slathered with this peaty mortar plastered over top of it. In this case, though, this is not what has happened here. This is a wholly different dram. This is its own entity, and I think the peat is it functions so differently. It's a more
really
intrinsic part of it. It's not just
really
adding peat to something different. This is created from the ground up as a peated dram, and it really works. This is one of my favourite peated whiskies to date, I think.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's almost as if it's made to compete directly with Islay peated whiskies, which is a very brave thing to do because they're extremely established kind of flavours and brands over there. It is almost utterly divorced from other Tomintoul whiskies, which are devoid of any peat.
But the Speyside character is there, though. It is clinging on. It is
add a bit of water.
Yes, it is so drinkable at that 50% that it's tempting not to add water. But no, we should really, just to broaden things, get a more well-rounded picture, bring it down a little, maybe to 45, 40 perhaps.
To me, that only exposes the youth of the spirit just a wee bit. It does freshen up some of the fruit.
Yeah, it's brought that fruitiness to the fore.
The peat is going nowhere. This is a really strange whiskey for me. It is. Yeah, it is built so thoroughly as a peated whiskey, and so thoroughly Islay influenced peated whiskey that it really does. It's closer to Islay distilleries, Islay Malt, than it is to anything you'd find in Speyside. Whereas the sort of the Ben Reek examples, the Curious Artists, stuff like that, that was kind of a meeting together of Ben Reek characteristics with peat. This one is going all in. It is putting all the cards on the table, and all of them are coming up Islay. It is such an interesting thing, such that I'm not sure who the target market is. Although, that said, I'll bet this is a damn sight cheaper than a lot of Islay whiskey these days, because you're not paying the Islay premium. Possibly they have uniquely managed to clone the Islay character on the mainland in a much, much cheaper bottle. And in that respect, they've done extremely well, because this is so close to, I think, Colilla really is the candidate. It's not It's not quite tangy and iodine enough to be Lefroy.
I think it has too much more going on underneath. With Cull Islay, you taste the Cull Islay peated experience. That is what you get. This has that similar peaty nuance, but layered on top of an already solid Speyside heft and fruitiness. It is a proper marriage of those two influences. They really do blend together. It is harmonious.
So I think this is going to be quite contentious because I don't think it is. I think it has gone well outside the reservation of anything that resembles Tomintoul and is in disguise hiding amongst the islands as almost a clone of Cull Islay. It is so close to a lot of those Cull Islay flavours. It's not perfect. That would be the true alchemy if they'd been able to clone an Islay whiskey on the mainland. But it is so close to those flavours that it's closer, I think, to Cull Islay for me and my palate than it is to its home, Tomintoul. It's such its own thing. It's really, really interesting, which makes it really hard to score. Am I scoring it as a Tomintoul, as a Speyside whiskey, as a mainland whiskey, or am I scoring it as a whiskey that is has infiltrated the Islay category of competition? It's quite strange. I will evaluate it entirely on its own merits as much as I possibly can, because I quite like Cull Islay. I think that's a pretty good pick for Islay whiskey for me. Maybe not my favourite, but in terms of the more available, it's one I come to quite a lot. And I think this really kind of harnesses a lot of the things that it's going for. Again, challenging, confusing whiskey to score. They haven't made it easy on us, but I think this is a solid 85 from me. I don't think it is a... In terms of a Tomintoul, there's a lot of things wrong with this whiskey, I think. As a peated whiskey, which is in some ways plagiarising a different style, I can only take my hat off to how well it does, because boy has it plagiarised East Coast Islay. Yeah, it is really cottoned on to what makes that whiskey typical, and it has cloned it remarkably. I don't know. I suspect you've got very different things to say about it. What do you think?
Well, I am quite taken by surprise here. I simply found this in passing. I was scrolling through one of my usual whiskey suppliers, looking at what was available, and came across a name I'd not seen before, Old Ballantruan. I looked into it. I was curious. I looked in further. I bought some on impulse because it sounded excellent. And what it actually delivered is all of that and more. It is a very singular take on Speyside whiskey. It is still distinctly Speyside, but the heavy peating has worked wonders here, creating something which is quite unique, quite different. Now, on my whiskey shelf at home, I have a number of Islay whiskies. There's some Ardbeg, there are several Keelomans. These are all about half empty. They've been sitting there for years sometimes. So it'll be a while till there's another vacancy on my whiskey shelf where I need to fill that peated niche. But when I do, I think it's going to be a full bottle of Old Ballantruan. This has sold me on the concept. It is curious, it's quirky, it is heavily peated but still heavily Speyside-y, and I'd rate it 89.
Yeah, I think it's really ballsy. Super ballsy. It kind of shines a light on the apparent uniqueness, the ineffability that is ascribed to Islay whiskey. It's sort of the whole reason that it charges its premium is that there's no way you can get it outside of the island, and that's why it sort of goes for such a premium. This, as a take on it, I think is spookily accurate, chillingly accurate. I'm sure it has just really rustled the jimmies of Islay distilleries to taste something this similar that has been crafted. As a scientific exercise, I think if that was the intention, it is a raucous success. I think they have managed to, if I was to say which is a whiskey that I associate not at all with Islay, Tomintoul would be up there, because it has nothing to do with the region, absolutely nothing to do with it in terms of its style, and yet they've been able to, through this dark alchemy, produce this thing is really real. So yeah, I'm quite interested. All I would like to see, I think, is for maybe a couple more years of age to be slapped onto this, and I think it would begin to, I don't know, coalesce a wee bit more.
Right.
And I think we might be onto a real force to be reckoned with. But I think it explains why they don't put Tomintoul on the label, because this really is...
It wouldn't be so at odds with your expectations, perhaps.
This would definitely be the ugly duckling of Tomintoul. It would just have no place in the normal range. It would be very, very difficult to explain.
But as its own entity, it very much has a place, and that place is on my tongue.
As its own entity, I think it's ballsy. It's really ballsy as a whiskey. So no, I'd like to see more of this. Actually, I'd like to see more mainland distillers take it to Islay and see if the Islay effect really is as unique as they would like to make out over there. I'm sure the peat is, but the peat, as it's proven, if it can find its way to Jolly India, it can find its way across the causeway to mainland Scotland, as it does, and they can have their own crack at it. So, that's a weird one. That's not something that we normally see, but I think illuminating in its own right. So... strike that one up to the strange and the wonderful, one of the Whiskey X-Files, I think. And, we will... I doubt it will be this strange, but we'll have a look at something... as we stare over it. God, there's so many left. If you're following the story of our weekend and our descent into ruin, this is... I've forgotten what whiskey it is already, but anyway, stay with us.
Those don't occur in chronological order, but... Well,
sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. It depends on how organised I am with the production, but